Hello, I want to narrate this video that I made of myself painting with soft pastel, a landscape picture of a creek that I found on the internet. I don't know where it is exactly on planet Earth, but it doesn't look exactly like the actual place anyway. It was just a reference photo. And so I started off with the brown-ish paper. Let me get the sketch pad so I can tell you what it is called. It's Canson, C-A-N-S-O-N, and it's Canson pastel paper, and it's Mi-Teintes. I hope I'm saying that right. M-I-T-E-I-N-T-E-S. And it comes in, this particular pad is 9 by 12 in size, and it comes in a variety of different colors. And I chose something that was on the brownish, orangish side. It's not easy to tell that there's orange in it. Well, right there you can when you see it. So as I pick the pastels now that I'm going to use, I picked the pastels based on the reference photo. I was just looking at the reference photo, which I apologize, I don't have it included in this video, but it was a reference photo somebody took of, actually it was from a video. I did a screenshot from a video and used it as the reference photo. So I saw a lot of greens. Obviously this was probably in the middle of summer. A lot of greens in the woods, in the forest, and there was light coming through the trees, and there was light reflecting off of the water, and there were some stones in the water. So I needed to go from dark, which is in pastel usually black or dark blue or very, very dark green. I don't think I used any dark blue, but I did use black and dark green. And then of course the yellows and the whites for the sky. This particular painting doesn't have really any blue sky in it. I did put a hint of blue in there, but mostly it's a whitish sky. When we get to the part of the painting where I'm doing the distant trees, the distance part of the picture near the horizon, one of the cool things about pastel is you can kind of rub a pastel on its side over the other part, and it'll fuzzy it up a little bit and give you that distant look. So right now we're just watching me pick out colors, and those are the colors I chose. And again, this is a 9 by 12 inch piece of paper, and it's got a little bit of a texture to it, not too much. The painting I did yesterday, the winter scene, had a much heavier tooth to it, much deeper tooth. And you can see those little lines that were left on the paper just simply by sliding the pastels off of the paper. It didn't bother me. I often don't worry about things like that because they probably play a part in making it look like a better painting anyway. So the river that I'm painting is from the perspective of standing in the river. So that means that it's going to expand like an upside down V. And so that's what you see me starting to do, an upside down V, with some dark areas to represent the deeper shadows in the trees and the rocks that are in the water. And I didn't set the camera up perfectly, but I'll show you the finished picture at the end. I had it at the beginning too, so you probably did see it. And so the tendency when you're doing any landscape, the tendency is to do what you think you know. And what I mean by that is you think you know that trees are green. You think you know that the sky is blue. And you're not wrong. However, there are just so many different variations of those greens and so many different ways that the blue can present itself. And quite often the blue, when it was like when it is contrasted against another color, might look more gray or more white or even yellow. And yellow, of course, happens in the sky a lot because of the refraction of the sun. So you just have to keep all those things in mind and try to observe what you are painting, and unless, of course, you want to do something more abstract and more maybe representational or more what's the word I'm trying to think of here? More representational. I guess that's as good of a word. So in my case, I wasn't trying to do that. I was just trying to paint a pretty picture of a landscape. And so at this point, again, the camera's not aimed perfectly, so you can't see what I'm doing exactly, but I was just sketching in distant trees and the distant sky. So I apologize for not having the camera. I have to get a new device to hold the phone when I do these things, because I can't even see the phone. I set it up and I'm done. I can't do anything else with it. I just hope it's in the right spot. And obviously it was close, but it wasn't perfect. Most of the sketch is done with the side of the pastel. You can see I'm just rubbing the side of the pastel. Watch, here we go. All right, now I'm putting the water in it, or the reflection off of the water is really what it is. And so you can see I'm using the side of the pastel, and you can see the tooth of the paper, which is kind of cool. Kind of gives it that texture look. And the edge, or the tip, or the point, if you will, of the pastel is used in the course of making this painting. Only a few times. I didn't really want to make any real lines, unless, of course, they were going to represent tree limbs. I didn't want to draw in the truest definition of the word draw. I didn't want to draw things out. I just wanted to create shapes that would represent the landscape that I was trying to paint here. And one of the things I have to be careful of is the black. Black has a tendency in paint and in pastel. Black has a tendency to get everywhere. It can be a mess. So if you're going to use it, sometimes it's better just to use dark blue or dark green. In this case, I was using black a little bit anyway. So you just have to be careful with that it doesn't get everywhere on the painting and ruin some of the parts or make them muddy. That's often the end result of letting that happen. But as you can see, I put it in there lightly, just so that there would be a hint of it. What I did not do at all, which you can do, and in many pastel paintings that I've done in the past, how I definitely did this, that I will tell you. I used a smudge stick. It's like a round, a rolled up piece of paper with a point. You can buy them in the art store, or you can make one. A lot of people use their finger. I chose not to because I'm pretty oily, I guess, and I didn't want the oil to be mixed in. Although that might have a good look, I don't know. But I did not do any of that with this particular painting. I simply used the pastels as they are, and really had no idea if this was going to work, if this was going to end up being something I even wanted to share with anybody. The fact that you're seeing it means that I made the decision to share it. I know that if you've been following me for a while, you know that I do a lot of digital art, and I also have done in my past a lot of traditional art. And traditional would mean paint or pastel or pencil or ink, I guess, actual ink. I don't think there's much difference in the skill that is necessary in order to create a painting on any medium. I think it's all kind of the same thing. There's benefits and drawbacks, The good thing about a traditional painting is that there's an actual piece of art that's out there. Somebody can own an original. When you do things digitally, it doesn't exist anywhere except for in a digital form. So this painting does exist. It's sitting on the floor right next to me right now. I haven't sprayed it yet, which, by the way, I am so torn about whether or not to spray a pastel painting. The reason to spray it is because somebody, sometime, inevitably, is going to touch the surface. And in some of the portraits that I did with pastel, if you touch a face, that's it. It's done. You've taken some color from somewhere and put it somewhere it shouldn't be, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So I do spray fixative on the paintings, the pastels, to prevent that. However, you can put them under glass, and then nobody will be able to touch them, and then they will retain that pure pastel look. But then the problem is the glass. The glass has a reflective surface, and it no longer is exactly the way a pastel or soft pastel looks. Soft pastel meaning the powdery, chalky kind, which is what I'm using here. And by the way, let me tell you the brand of the pastel. I love this brand, by the way. It is Rembrandt. Yeah, like the artist. So, and I've happened to buy this at an art store in Orlando. Robert and I drove down there, and it was not cheap. But anyway, it's called Rembrandt, and I think these are called half sticks. Yeah. Okay, back to my narration. So as you can see there, it's starting. I mean, right now it looks like a child drew it, but it's starting to look like a river, a creek in the picture there, in the woods, going through the woods. It takes a while before it starts to actually sort of come to life. It just all of a sudden starts to look the way I wanted it to look. And if you study the reference photo and you try to replicate the reference photo 100%, it's probably going to be a mistake. It's probably going to be very, 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 very hard to replicate it exactly. And it's probably not even preferable. It's probably not even desirable to replicate a photograph exactly. I mean, you are creating art. One of the great things that photography gave to artists was the ability to create art that did not look like a photograph. Think about that for a second. A lot of people say photography took work away from artists. And yes, as far as work goes, yeah. Because, the people with the money, the kings and the royalty and the presidents and all those people who had money now could have their portrait done with a photograph. And of course, it was a perfect representation of what they look like. And, if you know anybody with money, especially in an elected position or an appointed position or a born into position, they usually have a pretty strong ego. They definitely have the desire to leave a legacy behind in the form of a picture. They want people to know who they were. They want them to know what their name was, what they look like, and they want them to look the best. Just like we do now with Facebook. Everybody does this. Like, I'm going to look as best as I can. This is me, And some people choose to say, "Oh, I'm a sad person," and other people say, "No, I'm never sad. I'm always happy." So anyway, with photography, they were able to choose from a photograph how they looked. They didn't have to depend on an artist any longer. Not that photography in and of itself is not an art. It is, obviously. But prior to photography, artists, especially portrait artists, had to create paintings that looked like photographs, although photography hadn't been invented yet. If you think about the pushback that impressionistic artists got, like Monet, if you look at the pushback, read some of the stories, the status quo at that time, they didn't like seeing impressionism. they felt like Impressionism was rough sketching and wasn't real art because it wasn't exactly duplicating what you could see with your own eyes, which, is what photography does. So once photography came around, Monet and who's some of the others that did that? Monet, who's the other guy I like? Van Gogh. They were able to do their own thing, and it was kind of cool. So right now it looks like an upside down white V surrounded by some black and green. But you can see it's starting to look like a creek, starting to look like a river. And I'm just kind of working it. I'm just pushing that pastel into the paper and constantly paying attention to the lights and the darks. So it's an important thing too. Keep in mind, if you were to paint this picture or draw this picture using nothing but black ink or dark graphite or charcoal, you would approach it a slightly different way. You would clearly have to have that water. Well, either you could use white charcoal and then have two colors, but if you were only using one color, you would have to let the white of the paper shine through, and that would be, you could do that with watercolor too, just have the white of the paper shine through. And that's something I've done too with watercolor, where you have to be very careful not to put any paint down. I watch James Gurney a lot, and James Gurney will often, when he's doing a watercolor, if the white thing hasn't happened, he'll use gouache and paint gouache over the watercolor to give it some white. I have done the same thing. It's a good trick, and it's a good technique. The word trick is bad, really. It's not a trick. It's not like you're cheating. It's a technique. It's a way to make something. I did Robin and I did a bunch of cards, like greeting cards, so the church could raise money for the kids. And they were little 5x7 cards, and we did them with gouache and watercolor. I think it was watercolor and gouache or whatever, or maybe just gouache. But anyway, one of my landscapes I did was a scene from Central Park in New York that had a bridge, and it was in the winter, and there was snow on the ground. And so I went a little bit too heavy with the darker colors, and even though snow is in a painting can be blue, can be purple, and can be anything but white, you want to have a little bit of white at least reflecting off of the snow. And I had messed it up to the point where that wasn't happening. So I used the gouache. I used the opaqueness of the gouache and fixed it that way. What I'm doing here, I just want to explain this. Why am I adding yellow to the water? And then later on I picked up an orange and I added some orange to it. It's because above where my hand is right now, the part that you can't see, is the sky. And the sky has the sun, bright sun, just peeking through the trees. When you see the finished picture, you'll see what I mean. And so that light was being reflected off of the water in what looked to me to be an orangish way. It wasn't all white. It was the light being reflected was multiple things, and it was coming from multiple places. The trees were reflecting in the water. The sky is reflecting in the water. The current of the river was causing ripples, and that created some shadows, etc. And so that's why I did that. All right, now I am using the tip of the pastel. I'm doing that to add the illusion of leaves. As you know, I'm not painting/drawing any leaves. I'm not worrying about the leaf shape at all. I'm just putting what would be maybe the light reflecting off of a leaf, just to create that illusion, so that the painting feels like it has some detail to it. Right there, I'm sure what I thought was, that's too green. That's too green. I need to bring it down a notch. So I picked up another color to smudge it all in there. So earlier I said I wasn't using the smudge stick, which is true. I did not use the smudge stick, but that doesn't mean I didn't smudge I used one pastel to smudge another, basically, in this particular painting. Got about 20 minutes left in this painting, I think. Wow, that seems like a long time. Is that true? I'm not really sure. But anyway, this is how I did this particular painting. I know title is important, so I called it Pastel Creek. I don't know what to call them sometimes. The last one I did, I called, well, actually the last one was a Christmas tree, but the one before that, I called, what did I call it? I called it Manifest Creek. That was an acrylic painting. And the reason I called it Manifest Creek is because I didn't plan on painting a creek. I planned on just doing a landscape, and all of a sudden it looked like there was some water flowing through the middle of it, so it manifested itself, so to speak. Okay, so now I'm adding little areas to enrich the color, enrich the light and the dark, and remove things I don't like and add things that probably should be there. Things like some vertical lines always are helpful to create the illusion of trees. Some just haywire lines, just crazy lines, that represents usually, the limbs that are just going every which way. They don't always go straight up or straight horizontal. They go every way, and I know you know that already. So I'm going to put some music underneath this. I don't know what's going to be there, so I can't tell you. But I find some really good music on the YouTube studio thing that they offer. So hopefully it won't be infringing on anybody's copyright, because I think that's the whole reason they offer that. So you can use the music, and this makes it a more enjoyable time to watch the video, I think. I hope. Anyway. If you like this, I know everybody says this that makes videos, but if you like this, please like it. Please click that like button. And I will try to do more of these. Let me know which you like the best. Like, do you like the digital demonstrations, or would you prefer the pastel demonstrations, or the acrylic demonstrations? Do you prefer them to be in real time, or do you prefer them to be time-lapse, so it goes very quickly? So the one I did last was time-lapse. I speeded it up. This one, obviously, it's real time. So I think I'm almost done with the painting. My little program here says I got about 18 minutes left. I don't think that's right. I think what I probably did is I added the still picture at the end, and I made it too long, so I'll have to shorten that. But anyway, yeah, click the like button if you like it, if you want to see more of these. And I think when you click subscribe, then you get a notification that there's a new video up. So if you click subscribe, then you'll be able to get that. And Robin and I have another channel. It's called The World Spins Fine on Her Own. And there are some painting videos in there, but it felt like that particular channel should be more about the things that we do, the places we go. We're going to go camping next week, so that'll be on that channel. And I'll probably bring my art supplies, so I'll probably have something from that trip on this channel. It's a different world, isn't it? All right, I think I'm probably getting close to the end of the video segment, and then it'll go over to the still photo, and then you'll be able to see the part of the painting that's at the top. And one quick note about calling it a painting as opposed to a drawing. To me, it doesn't matter what we call it, a painting or a drawing. But I noticed that pastel artists call their work pastel paintings. It sounds nice. It's a nice thing to say. Anyway, painting or drawing. Thanks for watching. Here's the still right here. Hold on, there it is. Yeah, there it is. There's the finished picture. So, yeah, I definitely made the still picture way too long, so I'm going to have to shorten it. You won't know anything. You won't be able to tell, because I'll do it after the fact. All right, kids. I'll see you later. Bye.